it's moving all the time. The process is constantly changing. It seems like every couple of months we have a new issue. We started, of course, with the Russian soldiers being tried, and we thought, okay, this is going to be war crimes justice in Ukraine. No, there haven't been so many of these cases, actually. We just published today a map of these trials, and you'll see that there aren't many such cases. I think it's 6 soldiers, Russian soldiers, who've been tried. And so gradually we realized that the whole exchange of prisoners strategy of Ukrainian authorities actually deprived the system from having commanders, because the commanders have value, so they were exchanged and they wouldn't be tried, and it's only the lower level guys who would be tried and possibly exchanged afterwards, by the way. So all these realities of the war and the politics of the war just changed the dynamics. And then all of a sudden we realized that we had all these collaboration trials. And to me, of course, they're not war crimes as such, but they're clearly war-related, and officially, like they're national security trials. And to me, and that's where courts and justice is so interesting, they're not, to me, they're absolutely not minor stories, because they tell the story of the occupation. It's through these trials, through these cases, you have a whole story of the war that is being written in court, and we know that. We know the power of court cases to actually tell the life of people during the war. And that's why when we say the small people, to me, the small people's narratives that we have in these courts are also the big story of war, of the daily life during the war. I remember a story that Irina, we published it, I can't remember, 2 or 3 months ago. It was a trial in absentia. So another evolution. At some point, we had these trials of Russian soldiers who were not there. They were in Russia, which was a bit tricky. And it's always complicated because the evidence looks weak. And I really, when I read the report, I was like, damn, this is weak. This is a weak case, and it's not going to help the Ukrainian judiciary to look good and to look serious about running war crimes cases. Because the story that witnesses were saying, the victims, they were weird, they were awkward. They were telling us stories about, Russian soldiers running after chicken, and it seemed to be dramatic. And you just wonder what was the story. And since there was no accused, we wouldn't have, another narrative. A couple of weeks later, the New York Times published an amazing, huge report. They took 2 months to listen to tapes of conversations on the phone by Russian soldiers that they were actually listened to by Ukrainian intelligence services. The New York Times got access to these dozens of phone calls from Russian soldiers to their friends and families during the war. And in some of them, there was exactly the story, including the chicken story, told by the Russian soldiers to their friends and families, and telling them, look, this is what we're doing in those telephone calls. And so all of a sudden, it's like, so the evidence may not have been that weak. It was just the weird story of war under occupation in a small, neighborhood or village. So to me, that's also the value of all these trials. The small people trial, it's actually a whole story of the war is being written in these local courts, and I think it's fantastic that we have this group of reporters there to, tell us these stories, which is the reality of Ukrainians.